Good evening, hello, hello. Thank you for joining with me on the Tammy Talks show. I'm going to give the people a few minutes to come in. We have some exciting guests on tonight, so I'm going to take my time and let everyone come on while we get her situated to come in to talk with us. I thank you all for joining us and wanting to hear the conversation. So I'll say it again. Good evening. Welcome to the Tammy Talks show. I want to thank my audience for joining in with us to hear the conversation. I'm going to wait a few minutes until my guests come in. When my guests come on, we're going to a while longer until we can get more people on. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. I thank you all for taking that time in your schedule on today to sit and hear the conversation that we're going to have this evening. I want to thank my special guest today, Sharita Crawford. We're so glad to have you in on the conversation. How you
I'm
doing?
good. So glad to be here. Thank you.
Oh, hey. You're looking beautiful, and thank you for coming in, to do the conversation with us. I know you are way out of the state, on the other side of the world, but I'm so glad for
Me
technology
too. Me too.
that we can have a conversation on today. I thank you so much for just want to help, the audience see what we are dealing with in the world and just sharing a little bit of your experience. Thank you, thank you,
No
thank you.
problem.
I'm waiting for more guests to come on. We want them to hear the
Okay.
conversation. We want everything that you got to say and what you can share with us to help us. The topic tonight is being Black in corporate America.
Yes.
Yes, yes. I know that there are some things that you can share with us and share with the people that are, you know, in the corporate world and getting ready to go into the corporate
Yes.
world. I have a question for you, and I'm trying to wait 4 minutes and some more people come on because I want you to share what your knowledge and help the audience that are listening, because a lot of times we hear of how things are with people and we think that what we're going through, we're the only ones, or we're the only ones experiencing it, or we're the only ones that are out there. But there are other people that are there and want to share their
Right.
experience. And I thank you so much for wanting to share your
No
experience
problem.
tonight. Yes, I see that we have a few people on right now. So my first question, Miss Crawford. Rita dear, my first question is, give us a little background about how you got started in the corporate America and how long you've been in corporate America.
Well, let's see. I got started back in a little bit actually before 1999. I worked for
Mm-hmm.
a Fortune 100 company, and
Mm-hmm.
it took me 8 years, but I completed
Mm-hmm.
my bachelor's degree, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I always loved marketing. So marketing
Uh-huh.
is what my degree was in, and paused on me. Sorry. I don't know what happened there. I just felt like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? After that time of getting my degree, and at that point, there was an opportunity, and I
Mm-hmm.
took the opportunity, and, thank God, got hired, and
Mm-hmm.
I have been there over 20 years. So that's pretty much how I
Wow.
got started.
Okay, okay. And my second question is, have you seen more diversity over the years in certain positions or departments? What about on the management level?
That's a very good question. I have seen some diversity, but not as much
Mm-hmm.
as it could be by far.
Right.
We have what we call, different networks for African Americans. We have diversity and inclusion like most companies do, but there
Uh-huh.
definitely could be more opportunities for African Americans, especially on the management level. Just to give an
Mm-hmm.
example, I'm on a global team, and global, now I just want to emphasize that. And I'm the
Mm-hmm.
only African American manager on a global team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like we haven't had other African American managers, but
Mm-hmm.
it's very disheartening when there are more opportunities available and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
seem to be at the forefront sometimes of having a pool, if you will. I can recall a
Uh,
time where there was a group of ladies and I from our overall division that
mm-hmm.
actually met with someone in our HR department. And actually, this HR person reached out to us and said, "Hey, I hear you ladies get together every now and then. Would you mind if I join you?" And, we said yes. We shared with this HR rep all these different things and obstacles that we had gone through. And we were all
Right.
managers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we thought that would go somewhere. It went nowhere. So here we are,
Uh-huh.
you're being vulnerable and you're sharing things that you probably wouldn't share, but here's HR in particular reaching out to you. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
nothing ever occurred of that. So we're hoping that with everything going on now, with the climate that we're in, not only in corporate America, but across the world, we're hoping that there's more light shed to discussions like that.
Right. Right. Wow. You just have to take that step, and with everything that is going on today, it's good that the companies are having the
Yes,
conversation,
yes,
and they're taking the time to try to look into it and see what changes they can make to make it better.
yes,
You know,
yes.
good. That is so good. Okay, now what do you think about some of the corporate responses that are addressing the death of George Floyd and other injustices that is in this country today?
Well, it's interesting. First of all, being Black in corporate America,
Mm-hmm.
you have this unique, how can I put it, position that you're
Mm-hmm.
in because not only are you watching the news just like everybody else, not only are you having feelings and dealing with emotions and just coming to grips with what's going on in the country like everybody else, but in a half hour you might have a meeting and
Freezing.
sorry, something
Okay, we're gonna wait.
there. And majority of
Okay.
the people are Caucasian, and it
Mm-hmm.
just is what it is. So you have to
Right.
gather your emotions, and we're so good at that. We've been doing this for years, where you gather your
Yeah.
emotions, you get yourself together, you just continue to go on with your day until you say, you know what, I need to deal with this. And I think with the George Floyd situation, not only did we have to deal with it as our race, but we also had to deal with it in a corporation. And, I'll just speak to my corporation, just like many others, have taken a stance and
Mm-hmm.
actually put some actions into place. I mean, we're really seeing some change that I didn't think we would see. Uh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
surprised. It's constantly coming up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that's
Mm-hmm.
going away, and that's a commitment that they've made. And I'm glad that they've made
Yeah.
that commitment because it's very important. And on the flip side, we had to be vulnerable enough to share. Not only is this something
Yeah.
you're seeing on TV, but we live this every day. So while you're
Right.
going on every day with your normal life, we have to live this every day and still walk the line of making sure that we're good enough, making sure that we're timely, making sure our tasks are done. As a supervisor, making sure that you're caring for your people, your personnel, that you're meeting
Right.
your assignments. So it's definitely more than a notion, keeping all that together while you
Hmm.
woke up black today. It's not like it didn't affect you, you know.
And how difficult was it for you to, I'll just say, maneuver that, as you walk through your daily experience at work?
Um, I will
Was it
say,
easy?
huh?
Was it easy? Was it
No,
difficult? It just now
yeah,
knew how
it
to.
it definitely wasn't easy. I'll say this, it was a journey. And the
Okay.
journey being that trying to figure out which direction the company was going in. So that depends
Hmm.
on your journey. And let me just explain. So my journey could be that I'm trying to figure out how to navigate this situation with my emotions, with my team, with my
Yeah.
management, depending on how they're
Hmm.
reacting to it. Because
Okay.
there are some things that you just don't want to rock the boat, if you will. Like I can be a rebel,
Right.
but I'm only going to be a rebel
Yeah.
so far not to lose my job. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I just want to put this out there for those that know me. God is definitely my provider. He provides.
Right.
I look at him as
Right.
providing this job for me. So, do I let
Hmm.
things slide? No, but do I take all things into account? Yes. That's why you have to
Okay.
be slow to respond. So, I just, depended on how they were reacting and how they responded is the way that I looked at it. So now that they're responding the way that they are, I'm full speed ahead because
Okay.
these are things that we
Now,
should have talked about a long time ago anyway.
yes, beautiful. Now you're rolling into my next
Okay.
question. The next question is, how has it been for you personally, being Black, dealing with everything that's been going on in the world and stay focused on your work?
Woo, it's been a challenge. It's been a
Hmm.
challenge because people need to know. Um, I'll put it this way. Our management team, it came from the top down
Hmm.
that we were going to address this. We were going to address George Floyd. We're going to address Black Lives Matter. And
Hmm.
once they start saying not just talking points, oh, I had a pause there. Sorry about that. Then
Hmm.
that's when I said, okay, how can I deal with this in a way that Sharita would normally, not corporate Sharita, but
Okay.
real Sharita, because they're
Hmm.
definitely the work person, unfortunately, where you can go so far, and then there's like the real person where you're like, this is what I would have done if it was my company.
Yes,
And that's why I don't
yes.
knock not entrepreneurs at all, because when it's your company, you can do whatever you want to do.
All right. Yeah.
But I will say that when it comes to how I dealt with it personally, our management
Hmm.
team was given a directive to have meetings with all their personnel. And once they
Uh-huh.
did that, my director, who had already reached out to me, was interested in, how to go about leading it. She's Caucasian. And I mean, to
Uh-huh.
me, that was like, can you help me without saying, can you help me? Because I know you're my only Black manager that I have. So
Right.
how do I put that in perspective of, what am I going to do? So I have some people, some friends of mine in the company, and I just shared with them. And I reached out to her and I said, I would like to help you if you want the help. And by all means, she
Hmm.
was like, oh, yes, yes, please. um, And I put together a whole presentation starting from the origins of racism all the way through right now what's out there called the Crown Act for hair, people being discriminated for hair. I put rioting, looting, everything, protesting, systemic racism, the Confederate flag. I put all that in there. So to me, it was like an opportunity for me to be me and share what is really going on, not just what you think is going on, but what's really going on.
Yes. Okay. Because we know that it is a lot going on. And it's kind of difficult right now for the world to accept the change that may be taking place. So, a lot of times we know that people have seen it, but not really can identify with it. And some people can't identify with it because they never have lived.
Exactly.
Have lived and walked in it. You know how to implement it, how to implement change and suggest and all that. So I take my hat off to you because that is beautiful that you was given the opportunity to do that. And so we can shed some light on the problem that we're facing. Okay, next question is, what about other Black people that Black people that you work with, how has it been for them?
Another great question. Not the same experience I've had, unfortunately. There are still some of those managers, if you will. There are still people that haven't even been reached out to or contacted. You know, how you doing? How's your family? You know, is it anything that I can help you with? Some people have not been contacted at all. And to be honest with you, I've only been contacted by my director. There's a lot of people there. I'm just going to put that out there. So I think sometimes that people don't know how to feel or how to go about dealing with it. But for others that I know, some of my colleagues that haven't been contacted, they've had some issues with that, of course. Like, does anyone care? I know that there is a directive by the company to reach out to everyone. How come no one has reached out to me? And then there are some people that have been contacted by their manager and the conversations just haven't been great at all. And it kind of sets you back as to, is this really who I want to deal with? Is this who I want to be under? I may need to look elsewhere for another position because this is not the type of leadership that I want to be under. So it's been mixed. It's been a mixed response with how my colleagues have had to deal not only with what we're dealing with as a country or around the world, but also within the corporate workplace, because now you're really seeing how some managers are. You're seeing and hearing how they're expressing, whether they agree, disagree, think it's a good idea, don't think it's a good idea. So it's a lot of exposure. I've been using the word exposed a lot, and it's a lot of that going on in corporate America too.
Okay, yes. And I know it's like you were saying, it could be pretty difficult working in that environment, and some of the response that some of the employees are getting from top. And when it's from top, it's kind of difficult because you still got to work in that environment. So we know that the way things are getting in America, a lot of times people don't want change because they're afraid of change.
True.
What's going on right now, when change is happening, I'm telling what might happen to the change in my life. So it's very difficult, but we're seeking for change.
That's right. That's right.
So I have here. Okay, is there some sort of network where you can check on each other, whether it's professionally done or individually done?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, I have a personal group of friends that it's so funny. So we we received an email from the top down just talking about their actions and their concerns and just expressing, you know, some sincerity around the situation of George Floyd. And I don't like saying situation, the murder of George Floyd. And then we have a network that is primarily for it is for African Americans, but we let other people participate if they like to, because you don't want to discriminate. It's like somebody Caucasian that wants to go to Howard or something. You don't discriminate. You know, they still can attend, and sometimes that's beneficial. But after we had that email that came out, then we had a email of a meeting notice from that group, if you will, that network. And I figured my friends and I probably weren't going to be able to talk because, you know, it's so many people, it's so much time. So I had a personal meeting, and I called it, you know, the talk before the talk. And you know, I was able to just check on my friends and see, you know, how you doing? How are you dealing with this? Because it was affecting all of us, and you know, from the top down, if you black, you black, and you have to deal with that. Now there are some, don't get me wrong, there are some that try to act like they're not. I will put that out there. But at the end of the day, when you wake up and you look at yourself, you are black. And if you're in corporate America, you're in corporate America. So there is the network, and then there are those that we've kind of put our own little group together just to check on each other.
Okay, that's good. You know, and networking helps a whole lot too. Or there's people you can lean on, people can encourage you. To the office, you know. So that is good that you all have that lined up. Okay, my question is, what are some of the biggest challenges that corporate America must face in dealing with the inequalities, not only in the country, but in the workplace?
That's a big one. So dealing with inequalities in the workplace is a result of the George Floyd murder. I will say that, because before his murder, it was business as usual. And, you know, there are different diversity programs. You know, I will say my company is good and has been good for and being involved in diversity type programs and so on and so forth. So I'm not bashing that, but the fact is there's still a long way to go. So the fact that we're a global company, and what was that? I think the 17th of June, the last time I checked, there were over 2,000 protests in the US and over 60 countries that were protesting with us. Obviously, there's a problem bigger than exactly. There's a problem. So I think that really grabbed their attention as well. And the fact that their own employees were now beginning to share stories with them. There were executives sharing stories with other executives about their experiences. So you have to deal with it head on, quite frankly. And I appreciate the companies. There are quite a few that I've seen, the companies that are coming out with different playbooks and different actions, and it's not for show. This I can honestly tell you, you hear things and you're like, oh, this is just the next thing, this is the next thing, but there really are some changes going on, and they're sincere. So I think they had to come to the reality that this is not going away, and if we don't deal with it, what does that say about us?
Right. Is there an experience you can share with us that you experienced, and you don't even have to be in corporate America, but when you had to go experience that first time of getting that hit about
racism?
You're right. Yes, about
so
racism.
Let's see. Oh yes, I have a good one. I look, you see, I had to think like, which one? Okay. So I was in this one department, and the director at the time liked to have lunch. We usually had lunch. The managers, we would have lunch with the director, and it was kind of like a opportunity to just kind of kick it for a little while. And this director proceeded to share how he had a bad experience in the cafeteria, and he was waiting in line too long, and the person that was preparing the food was talking to two black women, and he didn't understand why he had to wait so long. And so I'm sitting there and I'm listening to his story, but all I heard is two black women. Okay.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, okay, is he going to tie this back to what he's rambling about? But no, he went on to talk about how he had the employee disciplined, and never circled around back to why he even mentioned the two black women. So that let me know right then and there, I knew what I was dealing with. And I believe the saying from Maya Angelou goes, if somebody show you their colors, believe them, or something like that. So I was like, okay, I know who exactly. I know, thank you. Like, I know who I'm dealing with, and I know one of us got to go. It probably ain't gonna be him. So I made it my business to intensify my next position, which it wasn't too much longer after that that I left that department and went to another department. Yeah.
Wow. I I had an experience like that on one of my jobs. I was trying to correct something that had went
Hmm.
wrong for this. And when I walked over to talk to her, she just looked at me like, I don't even want to talk to you. Just threw her hand up. I said,
See there?
okay. And I just talked so kindly and so sweetly and walked
Hmm.
away because I said, time, wrong person. Correct yourself and walk away. And I did
There
just
you
that.
go.
But it was a shock. But I'm still here. I survived.
Okay, and that's what I
And
said. I'm still here. And not for nothing,
yeah,
but he's actually deceased right now. So I'm not, I'm not
uh-huh.
throwing, he was a bully. He was a bully, and God, you don't play with God and his people. I'm just saying that. And he just was not he wasn't kind to a lot of people. He literally was known as a
Wow.
bully. And then you throw racism on top of that, it's like, okay. So
Oh,
yeah.
there's a double barrel
Okay.
shotgun. That's why I said that. Yeah, double
That's
barrel
right. Right.
shotgun. Very dangerous. Okay, I have another question here. You share an experience that you had with your team during the time while you were trying to figure something out. What can I do? How can I help? Would you mind sharing with us what you did
Oh, sure.
and the outcome?
Sure. That was that presentation. But I went a step further after, well, first
Okay.
of all, going back to just from a spiritual standpoint, as I gave this
Mm-hmm.
presentation, it probably was probably about 60 people, I would say. It was just for North
Mm-hmm.
America. It wasn't for the globe, just North America. In the
Mm-hmm.
middle of the presentation, I lost connection. Now,
Wow.
I was so hurt because I had that captive audience that I felt like God gave
Yeah.
me to share, this important message with at this important time. And I kept trying to
Yeah.
reconnect, and I was getting all kind of crazy messages I had never seen before. And at that point, I said, okay,
Oh,
I know the enemy got something to do with this. So I'm gonna let that
yeah.
ride, but he ain't gonna win.
Mm-hmm.
So afterwards, I wound up sending a presentation out, again, explaining about just starting from the origins of racism all the way down to where we are today. And I just sent an email saying, hey, if you have any bias and you don't know why, talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
If you have
Mm-hmm.
bias that's been passed down generation to generation and you don't know why, talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to have an off the record conversation. I will keep it confidential. And I have
Mm-hmm.
had several people reach out to me. I've had several discussions that have gone from a half hour to 2 hours. And it really
Oh,
is just people trying to understand. And I say that, they're good white people. And this is how
mm-hmm.
I define. This is just me. And just a disclaimer, these are all my experiences. I define
Mm-hmm.
good white people as people who are raising their children to love everyone, treat people with
Right.
respect, don't feel like you're better than others. There are those good white people. What those good white
Mm-hmm.
people don't know is what we experience personally on a daily basis. Whether it's us, whether
Right.
it's our family, they can
Mm-hmm.
turn on the news and be affected by George
Mm-hmm.
Floyd like they have for the majority of them. But when you
Mm-hmm.
have an Ahmaud Arbery or a Trayvon Martin or a Tamir Rice or Breonna Taylor or Rashard
Mm-hmm.
Brooks, I mean, and of course we can go on and on. They're just flipping the channel,
Yes.
you know. So
Mm-hmm.
to them, it's like another Black person, another murder. And the way that
Yeah.
the media detects everything, which I did touch on that too, the media will
Mm-hmm.
have it look like, a 30-second clip of us being savages in the street, killing each other.
Yeah.
But on the flip
Mm-hmm.
side, you definitely have more white on white crime. And they humanize it.
Yeah.
They humanize it by making it a 30-minute story, an hour story, a 2 hour story, Dateline, 60
Yeah.
Minutes, 2020, Cold Justice, Forensic Files,
Yeah.
all these different programs where they humanize their people, but
Yeah.
they have us look like
Mm-hmm.
savages on a 30-second clip. So the media has its positives and its negatives, and that's a negative. But like I said,
Yeah.
I did have conversations with those people, and that's what I wanted to offer to them. And I appreciate those that have reached out and had some very candid conversations.
Right. Because this could be some hard conversations to
Very.
have. You never have sat down to talk about it, or if you think that it didn't
Right.
exist, just in the minds of the Black
Right.
America. But you've been Black in America, you know what you have experienced
Absolutely.
from,
Absolutely.
you know, experience from grade school
Mm-hmm.
on, brought up in the South. I've seen it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You And I've seen people get murdered and beaten in the street and all of that thing, all that stuff. And then they will bring up that Black on
Oh,
Black
yes.
crime. Different story because as I talked in one of my first sessions that I did on my talk
Mm-hmm.
show, I was talking about
Mm-hmm.
illness. Think that maybe some of those Black young boys or young girls have suffered mental
Right.
illness because of the bringing up in the neighborhood that they've been brought up
Right.
in, and the environment they have been around, and never feeling like they belong.
Right.
So I'm just glad that this conversation is getting into the corporate world, because most most young people nowadays coming out of college and want the good jobs and everything, they want
Yes, they
opportunity.
do.
Not too many opportunities that will come to our race.
Right.
So I'm so glad light is shining in all of the corporate world, those that are opening up their minds to want to talk about this, wanting to discuss this. I'm glad to have you here
I'm
today
glad
to
to be
share some,
here.
because you have been in there, you said 20 years. So you know about working in that environment,
Mm-hmm.
and in the top, and hearing things and seeing
Mm-hmm.
things. So I'm here sharing it with us. There are other people that are listening that are working in those departments too, or working in that level of experience in life, and maybe they didn't know how to handle it or how to go about meeting on the other
Mm-hmm.
side. You have shed light on it, on how they can do it. How to look up things, how to research,
Yes.
and how to conversation and read over the conversation as they write it out. Don't just come out and say we're going to
Right.
go to discuss and just go to the table when you don't know what you're
Can't
talking
do
about.
that.
You need to go and some
Right.
information. And know you to be an informational person. Glad that you're sharing that with us on today. I have one more question that I would like to ask
Okay.
you. What advice would you give to people? No, I have two questions. Let me ask you this
Okay.
one
Okay.
first. Felt that being black and a woman in the corporate America a double negative for you?
Mm, that's a good one. I'll throw one in there better for you. How about a triple negative if there's such a thing?
Uh,
So I'm a woman. I'm a black
mm-hmm.
woman. And when I first started, I was a single parent. Oh
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
So you had my son Bernard on your show on the 18th of June, and I thank you again for that.
You're
When
welcome.
we went to where we relocated, he was only 7. I had no family there. And it was interesting from a perspective
Mm-hmm.
of my supervisors at the time. At that time, for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, in the area that I was put in, I had 2
Mm-hmm.
supervisors. And I
Wow.
recall one of the supervisors saying, "Well, I don't know how you're going to do this because you have a child, you have no one here, and we travel and this and that." And I said, "I already promised the regional manager that if he gave me a chance, I would do 110%."
Wow.
Have there been sacrifices? Yes. Has my son
Mm-hmm.
had sacrifices he probably shouldn't have? Yes. And I'm just being transparent. We're talking about corporate America, which can be cutthroat sometimes. So I didn't go
Mm-hmm.
to an Ivy League prestigious school, but
Mm-hmm.
someone saw something in me, and that's God, that saw that I could strive with the skills that I had. Because I've always been a hustler. Let me just put that out there. Born and raised East Side
Okay.
Detroit, I've always been a hustler, and I had my son. So
Yeah.
I always knew how to do things, but it's about how to
Mm-hmm.
structure those things. And structure is important, whether it's corporate America or entrepreneurship. It's important for structure. But
Yes.
so I say a triple negative because being a single parent with no family, this one
Mm-hmm.
supervisor thought I had lost my mind. Like, how is she going to do that? But not only did I do that with the grace of God, because there are still
Yeah.
days where I'm like, how did I do that? And I even had managers that sat me down and said, I don't know how you're doing this. But again, the grace of God and a praying family. And, my son, I have apologized to him numerous times looking at the effects
Mm-hmm.
that my being in corporate America had. But, as I explained to him, Mama just did what she had to do, to keep a
Right.
roof over our heads and to make sure we were okay and, things of that nature. And that was just the place where God had me. So, a lot of prayer. I met you, awesome woman of
Mm-hmm.
God, you and your family who
Yeah.
really became a second family. You and I are best
Yes.
friends. I honor you so much. And it's because of that, of knowing you 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
I can say those type of things where, it just takes a village. And that village not only was with my family, but trying to make sure that those triple negatives and that mindset did not come to light.
Right. Right. Beautiful. Well
Thank
said.
you.
I take my hat off to you for being able to handle both like that, the corporate world and raising a son. And it was just beautiful to me how you handled it. My hat was off to you every time I saw you. I said, that's an amazing woman, right? Doing what she have to do and at the top of her game. I never saw you looking like you was stressed out, depressed. You always had a smile on your face.
To God be the
Laugh.
glory.
So, you are an inspiration to other people. And I'm so glad you came on the show to talk about this today because there are other women out there and other, young men out there. They needed to hear this story. They needed to hear what it was like to balance it and then to walk into the workplace and the times that we're dealing in right
Yes.
now, on how to deal with it. You know, you can't walk into the workplace acting a certain kind of
Right.
way. It's you have to carry yourself if you want to keep that job.
Absolutely.
If you want to keep it balanced. So I just take my hat off to you. You are a wonderful young lady, and I have enjoyed knowing you. This experience that you're talking about on today, I can see over here there's a lot of people that are enjoying it and saying that you are an awesome woman, which you are an awesome woman. You need to hear
I
that.
thank God for that. I just, I want to chime in because, um,
Mm-hmm.
as you said, people that need to hear that, especially if they're thinking about entering corporate America, the one thing I would say is
Yes.
don't lose your identity. That
Don't lose it.
that is what makes us who we are. They there
Yeah.
if you're acting like everybody else, there's no diversity. And
No.
I'm very sincere about that. The one thing that
Mm-hmm.
I say in meetings a lot of times, born and raised East Side Detroit, I'm still the same person. And my friends that really know me, they know I'm the same person that I was then that I am now. I'm just, in a fortunate job, thank God, because of him. But
Right.
if you lose your identity, how are you going to make the workforce diverse? So you have to
Right.
remember who you are. And just going back to that presentation, I started off, and I hope people saw, Procter and Gamble has a commercial out where there's a man that wakes up in the bed. He goes throughout his day with his son. People are looking at him throughout the commercial. And at the end of that
Huh.
commercial, there's a bailiff that opens the door and says, "All rise," and he's a judge. So he knows who
Mm-hmm.
he is every day. And like I shared in that presentation, I know who I am every day. But if I don't
Mm-hmm.
act like who I am and I don't bring that diversity with some professionalism, what am I bringing to the table?
That's right. Beautiful. Beautifully said. Like I said again, take my hat off to you. I admire you, phenomenal woman. And I'm just so excited to have you on the show. I'm sure my viewers are enjoying what you're having to say. And like you said, stay who you
Yes.
are. A lot we get into those jobs and we change who we
Mm-hmm.
are. We have to change to fit
Right.
in. But being who you are and staying true to who you are, that sets you apart from everybody
And
else.
I will tell you, there have been some departments where being who I am, I'm sure has kept me
Hmm.
back from some positions,
Hmm.
but I can sleep at night. There are some
Right.
people, oh yes, there are some people who have completely changed who they are. And I'm talking black, white. I've seen
Hmm.
this happen, and I'm just not willing to sacrifice that. So if it means I stay in the type of management position that I'm in, which again, by the grace of God, has been going pretty good, just to
Yeah.
stay who I am and stay true to myself and to keep Him first. I keep Him
Yeah.
first with everything. I pray about everything, every decision, because it's not just about me. So I want to make sure that I am giving sound advice, that I'm
Hmm.
treating people fairly. But I know there have been
Hmm.
times where, because I do stick to myself, some people don't like
Hmm.
that. And I'm like, that's okay. I can sleep at night.
That's right. That's right. And you're in a position where you can live comfortable. You don't have to worry about tomorrow or the next day. So I take my hat off to you
Thank
again.
you.
Who you are. That's the important
Yes.
thing. And we not forget that. A lot of times, positions come, like I said, and you lose sight of who you are, but I'm so glad that you haven't. I have one more question. What advice would you give to people of color as they enter into the workforce?
I definitely would advise you to research your company. Just like they're interviewing you should interview them.
Right.
You don't just have to settle for the first thing that comes across. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what else would I say? Look at their diversity numbers. Look at what they've done for the African American community. Um,
Mm-hmm.
look at their leadership. Has their
Mm-hmm.
leadership been caught up in any scandals? Just things of that nature. Like I said, if they're interviewing you, you should be interviewing them as well. And if you're
Okay.
entering into the corporate workforce, definitely do not change who you are. If you know you rough around the edges, and Lord knows I was rough around the edges when I first started, there were a whole lot of stuff I didn't know, a whole lot of things I
Right.
didn't know. However, if you're willing to let yourself learn, you will do just that. There
Mm-hmm.
are some, and I'll never forget this. We have, before we actually start, we have a class, if you will. And that
Mm-hmm.
class of people that are hired, they have you learn all these different things, just training. And we were sent off
Yes.
to different parts of the country. And I had this one, and I was the only Black person in that class too. It's been going on for a while, y'all. Um, but
Mm-hmm.
this one guy, he came back and he said, Sharita, don't ever go to Memphis. And I looked at him and I said, what do you mean by that? And he's like, I'm just saying, don't ever go to Memphis. And at that point, I knew he was talking about racism.
Yeah.
I appreciated that. So when I say, when you go into anywhere, whether it's corporate America or anywhere, if you align
Mm-hmm.
yourself with people that mean well, and
Mm-hmm.
depending on how you treat them,
Right.
they will treat you the same way you're treating them if you're sincere. Now, there are some people
Yeah.
that don't mean well for you, and you can weed those out. What's interesting to me is I don't know why white people don't know that. We know when they fake and when they real. Um,
Right.
So when we know that someone is being sincere and they align themselves with you, it gives you the opportunity to not only see outside of your own box, if you will, but to see they're all not they're all not the same. Some of them really are
All right.
genuine and really do care. So don't
Yeah.
categorize everyone. That's another thing I would say. Don't categorize everyone and put them in the same box. They may
Right.
look
I have a
out for
question
you.
here. I have a question here for you from one of the
Okay.
viewers. It's saying, would you recommend African Americans to go into corporate America the way it is today, or should they pursue other careers?
I would say, now I'm going to use this analogy. You know how when a restaurant get caught messing up and then all of a sudden they get their act together? I
Mhm.
would say
Yeah.
this is a perfect time to go into corporate America because all of the initiatives and deep dives that they should have done, they are now doing
Hmm.
for the ones that
Oh,
really, really are trying to get their act together. So I would say, if any time, this is a great time to go in.
right, right, right. And like you said about the restaurants,
Okay.
yeah.
I can name a
So,
few, but I'm sure we all know some where you like after they get exposed on the news, they clean that up real good, and you go in next time, it's
yeah.
like, oh, okay, exactly.
Okay. But I'm so glad that you shared, you know, how the corporate world is giving us, shining some light on it. And the people that may be getting ready to go into the corporate world, like you said, they begin to take a look at how things has been
Right,
done, because some of the corporations, there are not anybody of color at the
right.
top.
That's right.
you you're almost there, but you ain't there yet.
Absolutely.
But how to get there? Now that the light is turned on, I do believe that there's going to be some changes. I
I do
do.
too.
I do believe
Yeah,
there would eventually.
I can tell you, like my mind is blown. I when we first received the email, first of all, the fact that they mentioned George Floyd and Black Lives Matter in the same email almost knocked me off my chair right there. But then they kept on and they kept on, and now they have some actions in place. And
Yeah.
we have weekly meetings globally, and they continue to
Hmm.
talk about the actions that they're taking. And my friends and I, we're just like, wow, they really like, because we keep doing the side eye like, but they really are sincere about it. So they really are making some changes, and there are companies that are coming out with actions. Now, the ones that aren't coming out with actions, I'm not really looking at those. But the corporations that
Right.
know they need to do something and are really making a sincere, genuine change, I think is very important.
I'm so glad that the light has come on in the corporate world and in the world today
Yes.
has come on. You know, I hate that the young man life had to be taken
Yeah.
from him for the light was on the whole
Right.
time. Glad people start looking around and want to see with the light
Right.
on.
Right.
It wasn't, but I just hate that there had to be a sacrifice made in order for the light to come on in every aspect of
Right.
America, because sometimes we'll try to hide behind things that we know and things that need to be turned around, but we'll hide behind the
Right.
norm. We'll hide what we're used to. And I'm just glad that you took out time from your busy schedule to share with us on today. I know that we had a lot of people listening, a lot of people paying attention, you know, and want to ask some questions. I want to know if there anybody else would like to ask a question for to Sharita about the corporate world, some questions you may have concerning the jobs that you're getting ready to go into, and you want to know how to act, how to even address the things that are going on in your job, racism that's there. You want to know how to act, and you want to know how to engage in the
Mm-hmm.
conversation, because a lot of people may not know how to engage in the
Right.
conversation, but you have given us some important information on how to handle it and how to do our research on it, because I know you did a whole research on it and you was given an opportunity to present it to your company, and maybe people might be able to present it to their workplace
Right.
and bring the conversation to the table, because we do need to
Yeah.
and talk about it. We need to see some action.
We need to see some action.
We have talked for a long
Right.
time. Every time something happens, we sit down and start
Right.
conversating. You know, I'll just use this as an example because this is my show. You know, if me and my husband sit at that table every day talking about something we need to get right and we don't never get it right, what's the use of talking
Right.
about it?
That's right.
You get it right and put some things in place for the
Right.
change. And I'm for the change. Again, I would like to thank you,
Thank
Sharita,
you.
for coming and engaging in the conversation with us. I thank you so much. Let me look again to see do I have any questions in here.
Okay. And uh-oh.
Okay,
All right.
here. Should you not take a job or job training if you are the only black employee?
I think you should. Now, here's the only reason I would say you shouldn't is if that company has had, say, lawsuits or complaints about them because of diversity. Then at
Okay.
that point, I would say you shouldn't. But if there's an opportunity for that company to get some diversity and you're it, I'd say go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I can recall when I was in the field, which just means traveling for my position at that time, and we were doing
Mm-hmm.
some cross training, and the opportunity came up for me to do some training. I mean, to get an assignment in another position, and I know, again, me being me, I told my manager at the time, yeah, I wouldn't mind going there. They need some diversity over there anyway. Now,
All right now.
I know that he wasn't expecting that, but it was the truth. And at that point, I
Yeah.
was the only black person that went into that department, but it was
Mm-hmm.
needed. It was definitely needed. So I would say if there's an opportunity like that, go for it.
Yes, yes. I can remember my husband was offered a position on one of this job that he had, and he was on it for years. And he was telling me about. He said, honey, when I walked in at the meeting, I looked around and I said, am I in the wrong building? No, I'm in the wrong one. Because he was the only one there. And the young man walked up to him and asked him, do you belong in here?
Wow.
He said, I think I do. Is this the such and such
Wow.
meeting? Then they said, yes. He said, well, I belong here then.
Well,
And you know, my husband,
yeah.
I belong here then.
Now hand me some coffee. Now let me just share with that, because that is very real. I mean, there are so many times where I walk in the room and I'm the only Black person, that I'm to the point now where it just kind of don't even faze me no more. It's actually ridiculously the opposite of, if I see somebody else Black, I'm like, what you doing here? Hey, how you doing? So it's not like that is not welcome, but it's just like, wow, we really need some more diversity. So I encourage people again to do their research, and if it's something that you're interested in, to do that. And what I found that's interesting is, for white women, they look at diversity from a perspective of gender, male, female. I had to remind one of my senior managers, while they were talking about it, if that was a man, they wouldn't have said this, said that, you know. And I said, well, welcome to my world, except on top of being a woman, I'm Black. And you could have just, her face was just like, whoa. Yeah, so it's that reminder that, diversity doesn't mean all things for all people. And that's where education again comes into play. What I am encouraged by is a lot of white people that I've been engaged with are doing some educating for themselves, and which is very important. If you really want to do something, then take the time to do something. Don't just wait for others to, try to teach you, or do a news clip here, a news clip there. No, really try to understand it so you can understand people that you work with on a daily basis.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Let me see. What else do I have here? Do I have any more questions? I am enjoying this conversation on today.
Me too.
And I audience are enjoying it. Thank you for coming on to talk with me on the Tammy Talks Show. Thank you for being my special guest. The things that you have said today really have helped the audience. And I do believe it has helped some of those that had questions in the back of their mind. Now they got some answers to them. And it's going to help them to go back to work tomorrow, those that got to go, and shed a little light on their situations or the circumstances that they're dealing with while we deal with the race of Black America. So I just thank you so much, Sarita, for coming in and sharing with us today. It's so good to see your face. I'm just so glad to see you. This corona got us locked up.
I know, otherwise I'd have been there.
But it's good to see you on that side, and you're sitting next to me, so it seems like we're sitting in the same room.
There you go.
Plus, and I thank you so much for sharing your story. I thank you for so much for just helping us see the light that we didn't see, and helping others to know that it's okay to talk.
Absolutely.
When people want to come to the table, don't be afraid to go to the table. Don't go to the table negative. Go to the table. Let's see what we can talk about and how we can get this straight, and how we can shine some light on what's going on in America today. It's global. It's everywhere. So shed the light on, and I thank you for turning the lamp on so we can see it today. Thank you so much again. I appreciate you, and I'm going to get you back again. We're going to talk some more on the show.
Yes, ma'am.
And I thank you for tuning in on today. I hope there was something that was said that you enjoyed. And if you enjoyed the show, please like it, like it, like it, like it,
And
like it.
share it, share it,
Share it.
share it.
Numbers make a
Yeah.
difference. I watched the movie over this weekend, and this young man kept saying, numbers make a
Yes.
difference. So help numbers. And I do believe one day, one of you that are listening, some of you that are listening, I might get you on my show. Just
That's
sit here
right.
and talk with me. Get the numbers, let's share it, share it, share it, because this is some important information. And I thank you again, Sharita Crawford.
Yes. If I could say just one last thing, I would ask your listeners to pray for me because this is a space that again I did not plan to be in. 2020
Mm-hmm.
has been an interesting year, as we all know. And, I just been asking God, now what you got me doing now? What is this? So as I have these discussions with my colleagues, I, ask for your prayers. And I also want to offer to your listeners, if there is someone that would like to reach out to me, you see my name
Yes,
there, you can send me a message. I'm just an open book at this point because we have to talk about it. So,
that's right.
vulnerability and courage and education are
Yes,
what's needed right now. So, I would definitely welcome that as well.
yes, yes, yes. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And I tell the audience to reach out. She will share and she will help you to write up what you got to write up, how you got to do it. She will give you the
Yes,
information on what to do and how to do it.
yes, very true.
And also go to the Tammy Talk page and
Yes,
like the page. Please go to it. And I will appreciate it. I thank you so much for tuning in. I know you enjoyed the show. Until next time, I'll see you then. God bless and love
God
you.
bless.
Until next,
Bye
see ya.
bye. Come on.